لكن تحديت الظروف وخضتها وحدي صبورا مستعينا بالصلاة. كم مرة عصف الأنين بداخلي، كم مرة قد ذاق قلبي من أساه محن تمر، وكم كرهت مصابها.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. من بعد، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. First of all, I want to issue a very quick disclaimer. Last month, since I started recording videos on this particular topic / genre of transparency from our charities, especially at the backdrop of the Gaza incursion by the Zionists, many brothers and sisters have thanked me. On top of that, I've had many conversations with brothers involved in the charity sector, and they've given me much insight and knowledge as to their operations, projects, and generally how the sector works. Not saying I'm an expert, but at the same time, hard-hitting, pertinent questions have been asked and will continue to be asked. Ramadan bi'idhnillah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in about 3-4 days. One last disclaimer before I begin. I say this here and now in front of all of you, that I will never disencourage or dissuade any of our brothers and sisters not to donate to charity. But at the same time, I would also implore and request our brothers and sisters to ask questions. It's their wealth, it's our wealth, and we have a haqq to know what is happening. Whatever information we require, the charities should be readily available to provide that information, because you have the amana of the believer's wealth. So I just want to get that out there. Al Khair Foundation, and brothers have brought this to my attention, have been operating in the charity sector for a very, very long time. And it's important to note that any information that we cascade to you today is based on their own website and their own appeals. So we are not interjecting our position, or we are not superimposing our perception on what we believe they are requesting. It is direct from them. Are we denying that charities are operating in Egypt, loading trucks and sending them to the Rafah border? No, we are not. Number two, are we denying that aid is trickling in via the Rafah border? No, we are not. We know the facts on the ground that there's trucks piling up for over 7 kilometers, 2,000 trucks, according to an Al Jazeera report. So it's a very difficult time for the Gazans because aid ain't reaching, and we know what's happening in northern Gaza, the starvation, the famine, and this is known to everyone. But Al Khair Foundation recently, and it's on their website as well, I have been advised by some brothers to be cautious on what information I put out as far as, fair usage, because of certain behavioral traits. And I don't want to go into that, but this is just advice that I've received. Could be right, could be wrong. Charities on their websites have appeals. So depending on the emergency, they have appeals. And with these appeals, they have certain breakdowns of what they can deliver according to their capabilities, according to their projects and whatnot. So Al Khair Foundation it's on their website, and there's a video that's on their Facebook page as well. And they are requesting donations, as every charity is nowadays. The fundraising mercenaries are in full flow. What brothers have brought my attention to is a truck. So they're loading trucks, right? And as we know, there are trucks waiting at the Rafah border going on for miles, as I mentioned earlier. But Al Khair Foundation are requesting donations. And what they've requested, so I just want to bring it to your attention. As you can see on screen, there's a convoy to Gaza, right? A convoy. And it's £50,000 per truck, right? £50,000 per truck. Medical supplies. So just so highlighting what they've mentioned. Medical supplies or any emergency essential items. So very generic. Medical supplies or any emergency essential items, right? £50,000 per truck. I'm very familiar with the rental truck industry. So you have certain tractors which via the Anderson connectors, you connect these containers, right? And you got the 6x4s, you got the 4x2s, and you have the 17.5 tons. You got curtain siders, and you got the 7.5, and then you got the 3.5s as well. I'm speaking in relation to the UK. £50,000 sterling. So that equates to 3,155,470 Egyptian pounds, because you have your Al Khair Foundation distribution center in Cairo, as you've been promoting, right? So this £50,000 per truck, right, which equates to 3 million plus Egyptian pound, what does it contain? Are you importing medical supplies from the UK to Egypt? That's the first question I'd like to ask. Okay, that's the first question. Number two, are you buying these medical supplies in Egypt? Are you buying these medical supplies in Egypt? And what do these medical supplies contain? What do they contain? Because the general message is that the medical supplies that you mentioned, or any emergency essential items, what are they? That cost £50,000 sterling, which equates to over 3 million Egyptian pounds, that you're requesting from the donors. So as you can see on screen, we've got a report from the منظمة الصحة العالمية, the World Health Organization, right? And what they've mentioned is that in terms of supplies, right, because I want to break it down, because I want Al Khair Foundation to confirm what these medical supplies are. So we've got the World Health Organization mentioned that the supplies that they've sent, right, includes trauma medicines and supplies for 1,200 people and 235 portable trauma bags on the spot stabilization of injured patients. They also include medicines. Now, your £50,000 doesn't include medication, because I've been told by certain charities that it's a long regulated process when it comes to actual medication. Okay, medication. So your request is for medical supplies or any, what did he mention? Or any emergency essential items, right? Not medication. So we'll exclude that from your campaign. So they include medicines for the treatment of chronic diseases for 1,500 people, and basic essential medicines and house supplies for 300,000 people for 3 months. So it mentions that there's a plane that is due to land in Al Arish, right, which is the logistical airport, later this morning. And on this particular flight, the World Health Organization would be supplying medicines, which your campaign of £50,000 per truck includes medical supplies or any emergency essential items, not medications, and also surgical supplies, instruments, infusions, disinfectant, antibiotics, water tanks, and tents. If you're not importing items from the UK to Egypt, the second question will be the medical supplies, which cost per truck, by the way. We're not talking about pallet, we're talking about truck now. What are these medical supplies or any emergency essential item that you're sending from Egypt, if you're purchasing in Egypt, to Gaza? And do you have documentation for those particular purchases? And are you able to break down the costs, because per truck you have made it generic to £50,000, which is 3 million Egyptian pound. Okay, which is 3 million Egyptian pound. On top of that, right, on your website, and I don't want to put it up for reasons I mentioned earlier, after advice from certain brothers. Another appeal that they have as part of the Gaza emergency appeal, and as I mentioned before, I'm not going to put it up on screen, is because I've been advised by certain brothers to be cautious. So it's on my phone here. I don't know how much you can see. There's an appeal for a new ambulance which will cost £50,000 sterling. That's what they've requested as part of an emergency appeal. £50,000 for a new ambulance. Now, I'd like to ask is, and it's genuine questions, I'm only asking for the purpose of transparency. This £50,000 for this new ambulance, which indicates to me, as it says here, new ambulance, so it's singular, it's not plural. Are you importing this ambulance from the UK? So you're purchasing these ambulances from the UK? Because I know of certain brothers that purchased ambulances, and they drove from the UK, I think, to Turkey, and they dropped off however much ambulances they were. I don't know the full transparency in terms of the cost, because I haven't asked, which I'm sure the brothers who went will be able to provide full transparency for them. So your appeal here is £50,000 sterling for a new ambulance. Are you purchasing these ambulances, or purchasing the ambulance? If you get £50,000, if one donor just donates 50 grand now, where are you purchasing this ambulance from? Is it from the UK? Is it St. John's ambulance? And are you importing it to Egypt? Okay, that's number one. Number two is, if it's not purchased from the UK to import to Egypt, are you purchasing this in Egypt? And 3 million Egyptian pounds for one ambulance. For what? One ambulance. Regardless whether you've purchased one or not, what we're asking is that if it's £50,000, which is fine, no problem, where are you purchasing this ambulance from? As I mentioned before, if it's from the UK, are you importing it? Is it St. John's ambulance? What type of ambulance is it? And if not, if it's in Egypt, 3 million Egyptian pound for a new ambulance. It's not a second-hand one, it's a new one. So this is what we need. We need to know this information, because it's a lot of money, right? £50,000. I'd like to bring your attention to something very important. I'm not going to put anything up on screen. As I said before, my reasons are valid. Okay, now I've got it here, right? I've got it here. And this is a screenshot I took myself after a brother requested me to view certain videos of their aid trucks going in. And they do have footage of their aid trucks going in. Now, we don't know when that was, because as you know, there was a small ceasefire where trucks were going in. As I mentioned before, Saudi sent in 550, Emirat, I think it was Qatar, and various others. So it's possible that there was a small window that they sent those trucks in, or it could be that those trucks that are waiting outside, which they're not admitting, there's 2,000 trucks waiting outside. We proved it with satellite images and video footage, drone footage from Al Jazeera, how many of their trucks are waiting outside, etc., etc. So it mentions here, and you could, and any Al Khair Foundation employee, projects managers, or whoever it may be, I've got it here. And brothers have also went on your on your Facebook page to look for this particular post, because I've took the screenshot myself and it's not there. So you've mentioned, and I'll read it out, here it is, over 120 AKF emergency response trucks, all right, have entered Gaza since October the 7th, 2023, making it the largest NGO response in Gaza's history. Now, I know another charity that claimed another, historical feat, and I don't want to mention their name either. So it's like, how true is it? Allahu A'lam. Your donations have enabled Al Khair to act swiftly and provide crucial aid to those in need. Thank you for your support in making a difference and helping communities in crisis. You donated, we delivered. So they delivered 127 trucks, right? And he also shows a footage of your distribution center. It says AKF distribution center in Egypt. Okay. Now, 127 emergency trucks have entered Gaza since October the 7th. So 120. Your breakdown of costs, when it comes to flour, when it comes to baby supplies, it's all on your website. And as I said, I'm not going to put anything up because there's a risk. Let's just say that. Have you got evidence and documentation? Because I've been speaking to other charities, and let's leave what they said. Would you have documentation and evidence that you have sent in 127 trucks? I am not ignorant. I understand Egypt is a very interesting country when it comes to getting things done. As our brother who we had on, Hafiz Osama, who studied there for 5 years, like from the smallest request, like paying electricity bill, re-application of X, Y, and Z for foreign students, it takes ages, and there's a certain amount of backhanders that, sometimes you have to pay. You could go all over the Middle East and the, Islamic world, Pakistan, my country, and various others. It's unfortunate that Russian is integrated into the society to a certain extent. So 127 trucks have been sent in according to your own testimony. Now this Facebook post is no longer on your page. I've checked it, and other brothers have checked it as well. So I'd like to ask you, have you entered 127 trucks yourself from your company into Gaza? Do you have documentation? We have the right to see documentation. We have the right to see documentation. I'm going to keep repeating this. We have the right to see documentation. If you're claiming you've sent over 100 trucks into Gaza since October the 7th, even though we know that there's over 2,000 trucks waiting from the February the 22nd, we've got reports from the Red Crescent, the Palestinian Red Crescent, that they never received any aid for about a week in January. And there's various other information that I've transmitted over the month.
هكذا تبدو الشاحنات المتكدسة على الجانب المصري من الحدود من صور مسيرة سجلت في 22 من فبراير وحصلت عليها الجزيرة. مئات الشاحنات تصطف على جانبي الطريق والتفرعات وأماكن الوقوف، تصطف أياما وربما أسابيع من الانتظار. وهكذا هو المشهد في الجهة الأخرى. وهذا هو مشهد الشاحنات المتكدسة عبر الأقمار الصناعية. مئات الشاحنات تشاهد ليس على مد البصر فحسب، بل على مد صور تؤخذ للمعبر من الفضاء الخارجي. وهذا هو المشهد للناس على الجانب الآخر من الحدود. وهنا مشاهد لأطفال يموتون جوعا تنقل عبر وسائل التواصل الاجتماعي، ومشاهد أخرى للموت جوعا تنقل عبر شاشات التلفزة حية للعالم. كل وسائل التكنولوجيا ترصد الجوع وهو ينهش 2,200,000 نسمة، فيما يقف العالم موقف المتفرج. عندما بلغت الحرب 100 يوم صنفتها الأمم المتحدة على أنها أكثر 100 يوم دموية في القرن 21 قائلة: لإيجاد فترة مماثلة شهدت قدرا أكبر من إراقة الدماء تجب العودة في التاريخ للإبادة الجماعية ضد التوتسي في رواندا عام 1994. لا يأتي الموت عن طريق إسالة الدماء فقط، بل عن طريق التجويع حتى الموت. 90% من الأطفال تحت سن 6، و95% من النساء الحوامل يعانون سوء التغذية الشديد، في حين تصل نسبة الأطفال الذين يعانون سوء التغذية الحاد إلى 1 من 6 في شمال قطاع غزة. وبحسب التقديرات فإن كل إنسان بحاجة إلى 2 كيلوغرام من المؤن يوميا. إذن هل يمكن ل2000 شاحنة تحمل كل منها في المتوسط ما يساوي 20 طنا من الحمولة أن تحل أزمة جوع يعاني منها أكثر من 1,000,000؟
To add, the £50,000 for a truck full of medical supplies and any emergency essential items, they have placed this £50,000 figure on their appeal. They've done that. We are only asking, can you break down these emergency supplies or medical supplies that you have requested from us to add. On their website, which they've added, you could go check it out. It's £50,000. They have a breakdown, and for medical supplies, a truck of medical supplies, it's £50,000 on their website. On the video, in fact, it just says medical convoy to Gaza, £50,000 per truck, and in brackets, it's medical supplies or any emergency essential items. What is included in these medical supplies, as I mentioned earlier? And only the transparency that we are requesting is based on your own emergency appeal. We're just requesting transparency. Okay, what is it? What's included in these medical supplies, etc.? That's going to cost £50,000, 3 million, £50,000 sterling, 3 million Egyptian pounds. What's included? Is it imported? Is it coming from the UK? Is it like hospital, NHS hospital beds? You know, the ones that have that, you know, ability to move up, move down. Like, these are expensive, right? So if you're purchasing like these specialist equipment, then these specialist equipment are very expensive. I appreciate that. And if you're importing them, I can understand. If you're purchasing many, then obviously we need to see documentation. That's our haq. That's our haq. And I can guarantee you, majority, or if not all, of our brothers and sisters watching this video must be thinking, £50,000 sterling per truck for medical supplies or any emergency essential items, which is also on their website but very generic, which just says a truck, £50,000 for a truck of medical supplies or something like that, and that's it. Once again, this is appeals on your own website and on videos. We have the right to ask these questions. We have a right to ask for documentation. We have a right to ask for transparency. That's our haq. So Al Khair Foundation, if you want to respond to me directly, no problem. If you want to contact me via my social media platforms and I can speak to you, that's not a problem. But we would like to have your input to understand how have you broken down these charges, because it's very generic, and with all due respect, £50,000 a truck is a lot of money. So we need to know the finer details, because it's our money, like I said before, and it's our right to know. It's not unreasonable, I assume. So yeah, take care of yourselves. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad.
ليس الغريب غريب الشام واليمن، إن الغريب غريب اللحد والكفن، إن الغريب له حق لغربته على المقيمين في الأوطان والسكن، سفر بعيد وزاد لن يبلغني، وقوتي ضعفت والموت يطلبني، ما أحلم الله عني حيث أمهلني، وقد تماديت في ذنبي ويسترني، تمر ساعة